Good morning, day 15 of my honey advent, and today I'm tasting Buchu honey from South Africa, and this is a really exciting honey. Now, when I visited South Africa on work, I actually went to Babylon because I work here at the sister hotel and gardens, the Newt in Somerset. And I was lucky enough to go to Babylon a couple of times, and each time I ran bee workshops and got to know Arne, the beekeeper there, and Liesel, the head gardener, and they gave me this honey for my honey collection. And Buchu is a collective name for a selection of fynbos plants. So fynbos is really indigenous to the Cape region of South Africa, and they have an actual honeybee that is also indigenous to the fynbos region. So the bees have evolved with those plants, and the fynbos, they grow on the mountains and on the sort of the wild areas, and it's a vast range of plants, and they're very resinous, really resinous plants. So this is the fynbos, and Buchu is the collective name of a family of fynbos that have a citrus base. And so this honey is from South Africa, from the Cape, and from fynbos plants, from Apis capensis, which is the honeybee that collects nectar from this range of plants. So what I loved is when you visit Babylon, and if you're lucky enough to stay in the hotel, they or eat in the restaurants, they always have fresh herbs, and fynbos plants are actually placed around your rooms in the restaurant, so you get this aroma all the time, and they really are citrusy but also resinous, so very much like eucalyptus. I mean, they do have eucalyptus trees there, but tea tree, it's that sort of antiseptic, really strong aromas of these plants. And I collected some dried Buchu plants and brought them back, some fynbos plants, and the smell of those, so when I do a tasting, honey tasting, and I use this as a sample, then I pass around the herbs first, so you can smell the herbs, which are really strong. And so this is the honey, so you can see again, as I've been noticing, it's got that sort of gingery hue, which seems to come with medicinal honeys. It's darker, it's slightly crystallized, and here it is in the jar. You can see the color, quite dark, and the aroma, on outside it's quite cold, so it's not best for the aroma, but you can still smell it, and it does have that. It's a mixed smell. It's a bit earthy, a bit like heather, rosemary, but it's very different. It's the fynbos plants. If you smelt the fynbos plants, then that's what you're getting. So it's slightly grainy. You can see it's not a completely smooth honey. So as I taste it, it does have a bitter, I keep putting too much in, it does have a slightly bitter, very aromatic flavour that leaves an aftertaste. Yeah, a bit like when you have a strong peppermint toothpaste and you have that sort of astringency. It's a bit like that. The granules, so as I rub it across the top of my mouth, it is like little grains of sand, and they get smaller, but they don't completely dissolve. Some honeys, the granules completely dissolve and melt in your mouth. These ones don't, but it is delicious, and I just love it. I really love it. So I was very lucky to go to South Africa. I met some amazing people, many of which I'm still connected with on Instagram, and I learnt an awful lot about bees. And it was the Babylon Star and Bees where I first saw entrances of hives where they'd blocked it up with propolis. My first visit was in the African winter, and so the bees had reduced their hive entrances and had this propolis. And yet I had read, interestingly, I think it was an Eva Crane book, that Apis capensis don't make propolis. But the bees at Babylon Star, and very much like here, are kept in a very natural way. And so they're swarms that move in or are captured in bait hives, and they're very much left to their own devices. They're not very often fully inspected, not right down into the brood boxes. Apis capensis is a very swarmy bee, so they can all leave, and unlike Apis mellifera, Apis capensis can rear their own queens. The female bees, the worker bees, can lay female eggs, so very, very unusual, very different to us. So, and that's partly due to the fires, because the fynbos, because it's so resinous, it will actually catch light. And what happens in this kind of landscape is you have these fires, and we all terrify when hillsides catch light, and obviously it can be frightening, but this is an important way of revitalising the fynbos, and quite a lot of the seeds aren't activated until they've been brushed by this heat, by the heat from the fires. So the fires are really important, and in the wild the Apis capensis would live in sort of rock crevices, and that's not only does the rock protect them to a certain extent from fire. If they can get deep into the rocks, then the fire will pass overhead or go around and the bees are okay, but also they have that freedom to just escape. They can just fly off and go somewhere else. So Babylon Star is at the base of some mountains, and so it's surrounded by fynbos. They've got fynbos all around the gardens as well. So it's a real rich area, both in bees and with forage for the bees. So it's really exciting. And because fynbos is endemic to the Cape of South Africa, and because Apis capensis are endemic to that small area of South Africa, to have a honey that's just from that spot is so exciting. So you're tasting the flavour of the Cape of South Africa. You're tasting the smells, and it's just this taste map of the fynbos, this vast variety of plants that grow in this area. So there we go. Really, really rich. Actually, it does have similarities to a heather honey. So not only with the red colour, or the hints of ginger in the colour, but the texture and that flavour, which isn't to everybody's taste, but to many people, that is the best type of honey. So there we go. So day 15, honey advent, fynbos from South Africa. Thanks for joining me, and see me tomorrow.